Hey everybody, episode 15 here, and I'm really excited because today we're going to cover one of my absolute favorite topics, and one that surprisingly so few ever really sort of follow to fruition. Okay, and yet intuitively you're going to understand everything I'm about to say. You're just perhaps uh, are going to be surprised about how much you might have let it slide. Okay, and so today we are covering the momentum principle, and stay tuned till the end of this presentation because there's something special coming at the end, and let's just dig right in. This is critical stuff. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of an example. To build a house, a single family home, requires knowledge and skills, right? And that's sort of akin to building a restaurant and getting a restaurant started, and getting it growing for the first couple years, and even reaching a point of positive cash flow. That requires real knowledge and real skills. And if you're watching this, then you have acquired that knowledge and skills at different levels. You know, everybody's got different levels of knowledge and skills in different ways, but you made it over a first hump. Okay, the difference between uh, leveraging some of uh, the skills and knowledge that our restaurant leaders have and not leveraging them is the difference between knowing how to build a single family home and knowing how to build skyscrapers, right? This requires next level knowledge and skills. And a lot of times we have trouble understanding that intuitively, that there might be some other things that we need to understand if we want to keep moving forward with our business. Okay. We don't want this feeling of having sort of topped out and asking ourselves, is this all there is to it? Okay. So the point here is that successful self determination, and all restaurant owners are full of self determination. That's why they decided to start their own business, is usually reliant on knowledge and skills that you don't have yet. In other words, our dreams are usually bigger than the realities that we currently manage, right? And what separates where we're trying to get to with our great self determination are knowledge and skills that we don't have, and not just sort of trying to repeat what we already know and finesse what we already know. Okay. So, what is momentum and why is it relevant? Well, momentum is this idea that you are perceived as somebody who is outpacing the market in ways that are interesting and provocative to the market, and they make us turn toward you. Okay. And it's relevant because attraction, which is what happens when we see a company that has momentum, gathers many more eyeballs, right? And many more eyeballs convert to many more new customers. Okay, that's the bottom line. So there are two realities that underlie. Actually, the slide is wrong because there are three realities that underlie restaurant momentum. The first is there's a finite amount of disposable income available for dining. So let me explain that. The There are only so many customers in every single market in the world, right? And they only have so much money that they earn, and they only have so much of a portion of the money that they earn that is available for them to spend on eating, period, right? And on eating from restaurants, that's a smaller subset, okay? And that number doesn't change much from year to year, okay? Some years it goes up, particularly when there's high growth in the economy or high inflation, right? Which is really reflective of maybe a type of growth that's not healthy, but it's also growth, right? And it goes down as the economy softens or weakens into even a possible recession, right? But those ranges are not that large. They can be largely felt by us, okay, because the marketplace is fairly saturated. Margins tend to be tight, but the fact is that there's a finite amount of business for us to capture, and you need to understand that as a control mechanism for what I'm about to say. Okay, two, when there's a collision, this is the formal definition of Newton's law of motion, sort of in particular in relation to momentum. Okay, and I'm paraphrasing. Okay, but when there is a collision between two objects, right? Think of a slow rolling marble and a fast rolling larger marble with more mass. Okay, so when there's a collision between two objects, the momentum lost by the slower moving object is equal to the momentum gained by the other. Now, this is physics, and it is it's about things that happen in vacuums with no other external forces. Okay, but the point is still there. When something comes up against something else, one of them tends to lose momentum, one tends to gain momentum. So let me give you an example based on the photo that's in this image. If a movie theater was selling popcorn and Coca-Cola, and all of a sudden they started making really great pretzels, right? And those pretzels were gaining a lot of interest among their customers. Well, that gaining momentum of the pretzels is going to reduce the momentum of popcorn sales. It's just the way it is, right? And that same concept applies to restaurants, right? And so, as a faster moving restaurant with a lot more momentum, perceived momentum in the marketplace, gains more traction, it is taking away the momentum of others because the market size is finite, right? If the market was growing at really high rates and it was infinite, then it wouldn't matter. But the fact is that when somebody has more momentum, somebody else is getting screwed. That makes sense? So you want to be the restaurant with more momentum. That's just the way it is. So the third sort of underlying force of momentum is that stacking drives momentum. In other words, there are activities that you have to do and get better at year after year after year, right? That over time rise you up as being perceived as a momentum brand in the marketplace. And if you don't take the time, the long term view of I got to keep repeating this and getting better and better at it, then you're not going to create the momentum. Momentum is not created with a light of a match, okay, in our business. It is a building and stacking process of activities that we often ignore, okay? So, the momentum principle for restaurants, I'm going to give this to you in a way that compares McDonald's to Burger King, okay? So McDonald's applied the momentum principle in 4 key ways to outpace Burger King. And I provide this beautiful little photo with Burger King on the right and McDonald's on the left, sort of a little bit farther back. And there are other restaurants in here just to help us to understand that visually that, restaurants go head to head to head. We don't always see that based on the density of our marketplace, right? But you are in a head-to-head competition with restaurants in your market that have overlapping customer bases. Okay, and you might not perceive that to be the case, but if they have more momentum than you, they're taking away your momentum. If you have more momentum than you're taking away their momentum, and it really is as simple as that. Okay, so let's jump into the 4 ways that McDonald's has used the momentum principle to outpace Burger King. Okay, now take into account, most people don't understand this, that Burger King was founded a year before McDonald's. Okay, Burger King didn't come along a lot later and had to catch up. It's actually an older business than McDonald's by 1 year. Okay, so the first is that your positioning direction, and we're going to see this slide in various forms, so I'm going to start with there, but your positioning direction must be the clearest and most valued for given needs. So I want to talk about positioning direction for a moment. If you don't know about point of view yet, you need to go back and read Restaurant Strong. You can also go back on my Restaurant Strong YouTube channel and look for other videos that speak to point of view. And what you must understand is that a restaurant concept, a static restaurant concept around food type, format type, and the experience that you develop based on food and format is generally fairly static. Okay. We have trouble understanding how we're going to keep innovating forward. We spend a lot of time sort of guessing, right, as to how to move forward. And a point of view, which we're not going to dig into the architecture of that today, helps you to see a development direction, okay, a positioning direction, right? And so McDonald's took the easiest and most powerful positioning direction by saying they were going to be the low cost provider of roughly 2,000 calories in a single meal. Okay. And they were going to be the low cost, most convenient to access provider in the world. That is a position that they took, right? And I'm using McDonald's here just because of the absolute clarity of it. Okay. You are probably somewhere in the muddled middle where you're trying to understand how you are positioned compared to others, okay, and how to make that more black and white so you can develop it. But you need to go back and read the book or see some of the other videos about that, or wait for what I'm going to talk to you about at the end, okay? So your positioning direction must be crystal clear. And McDonald's has always been crystal clear. They are continually innovating to remain the lowest cost, most convenient meal you can find, right? And so these ads that I've put in here, that are current ads running right now, okay, this is not over a long history, but they represent sort of the long history of their advertising, are all about deals, right? And value, absolute value, okay? And when you see so much messaging from McDonald's around that concept, it forms a frame that clarifies how they are positioned in the marketplace and how they're positioned to be of service to me. Okay. Now the arrow at the bottom points to very tiny a little ad slogan that says "new loose change menu," which I love. Okay. When you have a really clear position, you have really clever taglines and language that you can come up with that like solidifies it in people's minds. And this is what McDonald's has always been about. How do I make a meal at McDonald's feel so inexpensive to people? It's as if they're just taking out a few dollars out of their pocket that they don't really need. Okay. So your positioning direction must be the clearest and most valued. Okay. Must be the clearest and most valued. And again, if yours feels muddled, they're never going to, your customer base or those you're trying to attract to your business are never going to be able to form an absolutely crystal clear frame around why you are the best choice for them in any given circumstance. Rather, you're going to be one of many choices and probably not the strongest of many choices, because others who have figured this out more that are competing with you may have solidified that frame, that positioning more clearly than you, and may have solidified the value proposition of that positioning more clearly than you have. Okay. So the key here is that your positioning direction must be the clearest and most valued for given needs. Okay. So McDonald's needs that they solve for are: one, budget safety. I don't have a lot of money and I need to save money, or I don't have a lot of time, I need to save time. It's really as bottom line as that. Okay. And those are two needs that many humans have, and in fact most humans have at least one of them at some point or another. Excuse me, first time I sneezed on a video in a given week. Okay. And that's how McDonald's has been able to amass so many customers, by solving those two needs better than anybody else. Okay. So the next way that they have leveraged the momentum principle more effectively than Burger King is that they solve for needs, which is what I was just alluding to. Okay. And and they really make needs sort of center to all of their innovation, right? And so they came up with McCafe, selling specialty coffee as a way to give you another reason to come into McDonald's, which is I need a good coffee before I sort of continue on my day, right? I need to stop by and get something that will fuel me up besides food, right? and Burger King not only did not have as clear as a value proposition as McDonald's, because it was not as inexpensive, right, and it was not as convenient in location, right, as McDonald's became, but it also has not been as effective at identifying the needs of its customers and innovating into those needs, right? So McDonald's was the first to fully implement drive-throughs, not Burger King, solving this need that I need to just continue to move really quickly. I don't have time to go in and form a line. Okay, McDonald's was much more effective at implementing toy programs for children and Happy Meals for children and play areas for children, because parents needed a place to bring their kids that the kids would be happy and distracted, and maybe give the parents some time to experience that joy, but also some time to sort of just be a little more relaxed because their kids were focused on something else, right? And so um, McDonald's has the need states of its customer dead center as a lens to where and how it innovates, and has been much more effective at solving needs than Burger King. And that has given it more momentum, right? Because those needs provide them with more reasons for customers to come in and to experience them. Okay. You must better humanize your brand always. Okay. Meaning as a continuing process, not as a once off process. And most restaurants that are independent restaurants, even today, hide behind the brand of the restaurant. In other words, the founder does not put her or himself front and center every day in the marketplace. And that's a huge mistake, because I want you to think about the time when you've had a problem with a company that has not served you well, right? And if it's a really large company, you can't even get a human on the phone, and it really upsets you, right? And if it's a smaller company, you want to speak to a manager, but if they're not available, that really upsets you. Or even with the owner, if they're not available, that really upsets you, right? So humanizing our brands is really important, because we want to feel like there is something human behind this corporate imagery. Okay, so you might remember there was a Burger King. He appears now and then, right? But McDonald's was much more effective at humanizing its brand with Ronald McDonald's, which has become Ronald McDonald's, who's become a global icon, right? Than Burger King, which most people can't even remember what he looks like. Okay. So humanizing your brand so that people feel not the hard surfaces of a commercial brand, but the softer surfaces of humanity is critical to gaining momentum, because then people start to trust you more, right? And they want to watch you more, and they have more reasons to sort of feel nuanced emotions about you, and that helps you to speed up your process of developing customers. Okay, and it also gives you more ways and more reasons to come out into the marketplace, right? When there is a human speaking to the public rather than a corporate brand, we have many more rationales for addressing our market and relating to our market, right? Think of David Chang talking about his mental health in his last book, right? Think about Rene Redzepi of Noma speaking about foraging as a child, right? Humanizing your brand is critical to having enough trust, right? Establish enough trust that people will actually want to follow your brand, okay? Now, the fourth is that you must launch novel items on a firm schedule. Now, look at this photo of a drive-through menu for McDonald's. Look how many arrows there are to the word new. Okay, now so a couple of these are repeated, right? But the fact is that McDonald's has been much more effective at putting out marketable, meaning attractive products into the marketplace that they have worked hard to develop, and they worked hard to connect to their customers, and they worked hard to make sure they were novel, right? They served as sort of bait to attract people to them, than Burger King has. It's just the bottom line, right? And The more that you focus on developing novel products, not copying those that seem to be working well in other restaurants, and rolling them out into the marketplace and understanding all the practices around product design and product launch, the more that people are going to see your innovations and be excited by you, period. Okay. This generates momentum. And you might think, well, food is old school, right? And so I want you to think about Elon Musk, for example. If you like to follow Elon Musk, you like to follow him because there's so much momentum that he has developed, right? He's humanized his brands. He's constantly launching new innovations into the marketplace, right? And restaurants have to do the same thing, right? And if you are not taking that practice and making it your own, which is what all restaurant leaders do, even those that are destination fine dining are constantly launching new products, then you are not even getting on the momentum track. That makes sense? So you must launch novel items on a firm schedule. McDonald's does that infinitely better than Burger King, and it's why they are a multiple the size of Burger King, okay? Now, momentum brands steadily rise higher in the public consciousness. This is critical, right? All of these things that I've just described to you push us up in terms of our visibility and the awareness that we can create in the marketplace. And I want you to ask yourself why that is, okay? And that's because momentum is sexy. It's attractive. It attracts us to others, right? We want to see the rising movie stars. We want to listen to the rising new musicians, right? We want to be associated with the rising brands, right? And these four areas are basic fundamentals of a rising brand that is sexier and more attractive. Got it? This is called marketability. Okay. Marketability is the idea that you can develop your business and your products and your services and your messaging to be more attractive than others are able to do. Okay. So momentum is one type of marketability, and momentum is sexy and attractive. And if you don't understand that, then you risk being boring and stagnant, okay, compared to possible competitors, okay? Now, all of these brands have relied on the momentum principle, right? They are all trying to pursue these four parts of the momentum principle more effectively than the companies they compete with, which is why everybody in here is a category leader. Okay, that's how you get to be a category leader, by having and sustaining over long periods of time more momentum than everybody else. Got that? So I'm bringing this to a head because I am pre-launching, okay, it's not going to be available till November, a brand new training called Restaurant Marketability. There's a link to it below this video, which I highly recommend that you check out. In that pre-sale, I'm giving fans of this channel and of the Restaurant Strong Facebook group a price point that is dramatically lower than what everybody else will be paying when this goes live. It is going to give you an opportunity to not only do this training and figure out ways to, because there are going to be exercises to help you to figure out how to translate marketability practices into your own business. But at the end, you're also going to get an opportunity to speak to me one-on-one about that translation so that you're absolutely certain you understand what to do. Okay. So that pre-launch is described at a link under this video. Please check it out. Do yourself a favor. The pricing is dramatically going to go up when this goes live in a couple months. And I would love to get you, as somebody who spends time with me, to be able to take advantage of it. Okay. So that is our episode 15. We're making progress. October is almost upon us. And in October, we're going to start to have a combination of these sorts of strategy videos and videos in which other parties are on board with me, having strategic conversations that matter to independent restaurants and to mid-size and small chains who are the folks that I am dedicated to helping most.